There's something so romantic about traveling by train, isn't there? The sounds of the tracks, the swaying cars, watching the scenery change through the window. Years ago, when my boys were really little boys, we took one of our all-time favorite family vacations, a ride on the rails on el Chepe Express. A one-week journey from the breathtaking Copper Canyon to the end of the line, Los Mochis, Sinaloa. Today, I'm gonna relive a part of that ride and I'm taking you with me. One of my favorite parts of that trip was the food on that train, especially the breakfast. From the fresh squeezed orange juice to the pressed coffee to the crispy chilaquiles. So, in honor of El Chepe, I'm making a mind-blowing Sinaloan breakfast, starting with something I've always wanted to share, my recipe for homemade puff pastry, which is the base for one of Mexico's most iconic pan dulces, Orejas. Ah, the crunch. Then just you wait. Hearty, meaty, spicy, a steak and egg recipe piled onto a crispy potato hash cake and topped with roasted tomato and jalapeño salsita. An incredible meal that will last all day. Breakfast, brunch, lunch is gonna make you last until dinner.
Dame, dame, dame tu chocolate, dame, dame, dame café caliente, dame, dame, dame tu corazón.
One of the things that I love the most about Mexican breakfasts is pan dulce. Pan dulce encompasses a universe of possibilities. There's conchas, there's campechanas, but one of my favorite things are orejas. An oreja is nothing but the adaptation of the French palmier. To make it, you need puff pastry. And people are usually intimidated when making puff pastry, but there's a very easy way to make really good puff pastry, and it's so good and it's so easy that I bet you're gonna like it more than buying puff pastry at the store. I have 2 2/3 cups of all-purpose flour. And then I'm gonna add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 3 sticks of unsalted butter, which is 3/4 pounds, and it needs to be very cold. See, the whole secret of puff pastry is you need to create layers of dough and butter because the butter puffs in the layers that you make in the oven, and that's why puff pastry is so light and crisp and delightful. I'm gonna pause the food processor just a few times. I just want the really cold butter to break into the flour. And then, once you see that the butter is starting to break into the flour, I'm going to add 3/4 cups of very, very cold water. And then pause a little. This is how you want the dough to turn out before you start to roll it. It's very crumbly. It doesn't seem to want to come together. I dusted my countertop with flour. I'm gonna dust my rolling pin, and then I also have a lot of flour in my hands. And this is where we get very, very French with a Mexican adaptation. The first thing is you're gonna roll the dough into something that resembles a triangle. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? I'm going to fold it as if it was an envelope. It doesn't matter that it's breaking. We're starting to create layers with the dough and the butter. And after you make these like envelope shape, you're gonna 1/4 turn counterclockwise. And now, this time, we're gonna roll these into sort of a rectangle. Once you have this rectangle, you're going to fold the top to the middle and the bottom to the middle. And now, we turn this folded rectangle onto itself like this, and this makes us have 8 layers of pastry. And you're gonna do the same thing all over again, triangle fold, rectangle fold. This makes it 32, but then we fold it again. And this makes it 64. When you make puff pastry at home, it makes you feel so accomplished. Before I use this puff pastry, it needs to chill for at least 30 minutes. I made this puff earlier, and it's nice and chilled. What I have here is 2 cups of sugar and a teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm always very careful with the cinnamon because I love a little bit of cinnamon, but I don't like it when things have an overpowered cinnamon taste. To make sure that the sugar and the cinnamon are incorporated into the puff pastry, you need to roll the puff pastry onto the sugar base. How much fun is that? We need to roll the puff pastry into a really, really large rectangle, about 24 inches by 10 to 12 inches. So now I'm gonna take a butter knife and just make a line down the middle, but you're just making a line to give you a guide. You don't wanna cut through the dough all the way to the countertop. Then I'm gonna add the rest of the sugar. I'm gonna roll it a little so that it really goes in. And then what you're gonna do is really fun. You're just gonna roll the bottom to the center and the top to the center. And you wanna do it tightly. We're making these 2 rolls meet, and then you wanna pinch them together. I'm gonna cut these into 2 because it's too big, but you can start to see how beautiful this is gonna be. See? This is the shape of the oreja. We're going to wrap it in plastic wrap, put it in the refrigerator, and let it chill for a half an hour, just so that I can slice the orejas beautifully. I'm making steak and eggs, but this is not your usual steak and eggs. No, this is steaks and chorizo and Anaheim chile and eggs, and it's gonna go on top of a potato hash cake. Because I'm thinking outrageous breakfast. I have 4 pounds of red bliss potatoes that I peeled and grated. So potatoes like these, it doesn't matter if they're small or large, just peel them, grate them, strain them so you get most of the juice out. And a really effective way to get the juice out is to put them in a clean kitchen towel and just squeeze the juice out. And I had squeezed most of the juice out. I'm going to grate a half a white onion. For me, a really good potato hash cake has very little seasoning because I love potatoes and I really want the potatoes to shine. Then I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons of flour, a half a teaspoon of baking powder, which is gonna help that potato hash cake puff, some salt, and some freshly ground black pepper, and then 3 eggs. The recipe for this potato hash cake comes from my sister Karen, who has an amazing new restaurant in Mexico City called Nido. She specializes in amazing breakfasts, and she volunteered this potato hash cake for my steak and eggs. This is another trick from my sister. She butters and flours a baking sheet or a baking pan so that it's very easy to take them out as if they were slices of cake. I'm gonna pour a little bit of olive oil on top of the potato hash cake so that the browning is even more lovely and golden brown. I have my oven at 400 degrees. It's gonna bake anywhere from 35 to 40 minutes. You are gonna check it with me. We're gonna take it out when it's beautifully browned and crispy. Mira, look how young those boys are. Where does the time go? It seems like only yesterday when we all piled onto that train and set out on one of our greatest family adventures. El Chepe Express is a passenger train taking tourists on a beautiful ride through northern Mexico's Copper Canyon all the way down to the coast of Sinaloa, at Los Mochis. This was not only a great family trip where we first learned Juju was going to be a great eater, but it was also an important trip for me. Because we took this trip right when I switched careers and was starting my first food blog. Which is why I have video of me forcing myself into the train kitchen to ask about their recipes.
¿De dónde sale comida tan rica?
Mire, pásele adelante.
Wow!
The experience and meals on this train were so amazing that it helped fuel my passion for continuing to connect myself and my family to Mexico through food.
Wow! This is so good!
El Chepe has had a few updates since our trip, and the new train is a stunner.
Chepe is the only passenger train in Mexico, right?
Yes.
And it's the only one that has food and drinks.
Yes.
So when you're coming into Sinaloa from Chihuahua, from the deserts, when the train starts to get into Sinaloa, what do you get into?
This area for semi-tropical vegetation,
Yeah.
which makes the whole thing different because we're coming from the mountains to the ocean.
I have a very strong personal connection to the Chepe train, and I connected with the freshly squeezed juice that's coming from the restaurant and the freshly made coffee and the pan dulce.
It is very interesting to speak to people. You feel the pride of the people that works for the train.
I think a lot of people are used to getting like microwavable hot dogs or pizzas that are just put in a little oven, and here you're getting a full menu.
Yeah, you do. When you get on the train, the first thing that you get is a coffee with a fresh
bread.
baked bread. Yeah.
Why have you maintained having the fresh food come out from the kitchen train? Why is it important?
Well, it is very important that the people has the tastes and the flavors from the local areas, and it's always nice to have them taste the real flavor of Mexico.
In a kitchen that's moving along with the train, like, do you guys get, first of all, do you get dizzy? Is it fun? Do you get into a rhythm?
At first, it's really difficult because we're not used to the movement.
Yeah.
But as the time passes by, you get used to it.
Oh, wow. Please, please. Estos son los tacos de
Los
carne
tacos de
asada.
carne asadas.
Should I give you a napkin?
These carne asada tacos are very Sinaloa, right?
Yeah, that's pure Sinaloa. I think that's what this train brings to gastronomy and all over the country, to show the people that not all the gastronomy is in the center of the country or in the south.
And so many things that grow here, so you're
Yes.
really cooking with local products.
I think the north part of Sinaloa has the most gorgeous callos de hacha, shrimp, chilorio.
Yeah, they have a lot. I think that in Mexico there are different regions of food. The food is, you can go to a state to another state, and there's a lot of different things. And in this case, we want to show the world that the gastronomy part.
Ah, the chicharrón has a salsa verde.
Yeah.
So the salsa verde is made with the Anaheim as well.
Yeah.
Está delicioso. This is such a classic, old-fashioned way to travel. Slow, no connection, looking at the view. Why is that so important to preserve, in your view?
Well, I think that running a traditional train makes the people go back to nostalgia.
Yeah.
And when you come here with all this movement, you know, you get rid of the stress
Yeah.
You come and enjoy another part of life.
Yeah.
And there is nowhere else to go. So the
Yeah.
best thing to do is to enjoy what you have around.
Okay, my oreja dough has been chilling for over half an hour. So oreja translates to ear, as we had said. We're making orejitas. We're making little ears. So a 1/4 inch is much easier to slice it when it's chilled and it stays like this. This is incredibly lovely. We have the remaining sugar. We are going to super sugar coat these. And you wanna leave about an inch between them because they are gonna puff. I have my oven at 425 and I'm going to bake these about 6 to 7 minutes per side. I want them to be golden and brown and then I'm gonna flip them. So my potato hash cake is finishing to brown in the oven and I'm gonna make a steak, chorizo, onion, Anaheim steak and egg thing. You've never had steak and eggs like these. This is an outrageous version of steak and eggs. I'm gonna show you how I make it. I have 2 pounds of sirloin steak. I'm going to try to trim off as much of the fat as I can. Why I love making steak and eggs or puntas de filete with sirloin is because it's a cut of meat that has a lot of flavor and it has a lot of give when you bite into it. So I'm cutting the meat into bite-sized pieces. I want all of these steak sauteed mixture to be ready to eat so you don't have to cut into anything, you can just dig in. I'm gonna leave a little bit of fat. It's gonna render when we cook it in the pan. And I have a pound of Mexican chorizo. I took the casings off and I could just throw it in the pan and start browning it. But chorizo meat tends to stick together when you cook it. So it really helps if you coarsely chop it before you add it into the pan. I added 2 tablespoons of oil to my pan, which I have at medium-high heat. Oh, now I'm smelling the chorizo a lot more than before. This is not just steak and eggs, it's steaks and chorizo. The wonderful thing about chorizo is that not only are we gonna have crisp bites of seasoned meat, but we're gonna have all that rendered flavor for the onions and the chiles to cook in. You'll see. It's been like 8 minutes. The orejas look ready to flip, and you can see how beautiful they look. So we're just flipping them to the other side. Did you see all the sugar that melted and started browning with the butter and the puff? I mean, this is just perfect. So now I'm gonna put it in the oven for another 5 to 6 minutes. I have 1 white onion, which is about 2 cups, and then I have 3/4 pounds of Anaheim chiles. This is the first time that I'm cooking with Anaheim chiles in my kitchen. So this was a chile that I really didn't appreciate before I went to Sinaloa. Different from a jalapeño. The jalapeño is spicier. The Anaheim is much more mild, peppery, a little bit bitter, but I like it a lot more when you roast or char, and then you remove the skin, you remove the seeds, it becomes a little bit more mellow. And then you just slice it. When you fire roast or char Anaheim chiles, you don't want to overdo it. You really want to leave the meat thick and a little bit crunchy. If you fire roast them for too long, they'll become like mush, which is not a bad thing, but I do want to have the bite of the chiles. Ooh, perfection. perfection. So now I'm gonna add a little bit more oil, and then I'm gonna raise my heat, and then I'm gonna sear my meat. And the great thing about the sirloin steak is that it really needs 5 minutes. This is gonna be an outrageous breakfast, brunch, lunch. Is gonna make you last until dinner. I'm gonna add some salt and pepper. Now, I don't wanna add too much salt because the chorizo has a ton of flavor. And you really want your heat to be high because you don't want the meat to steam. You want it to sear. While my sirloin steak is searing, I'm going to make the best ever salsita. And you're going to be shocked because it has 2 ingredients: Roma tomatoes and 2 chubby jalapeños. And I'm just gonna broil them for about 10 minutes until they're mushy and charred and juicy. You know you wanna bite into one of these chunks. I'm gonna add the chorizo and the sauteed onions and the fire roasted anaheim. That's gonna heat for 1 more minute. So I like to make my sunny side up eggs in this tiny little pan. I put it over very low heat. I'm gonna add just a drop or 2 of oil. Some salt. I like to cover them so they cook with a little bit of the steam. And I like to cook them until the whites are completely cooked, but the yolks are very runny. You may think this is burnt or too charred. No, this is perfect. Salt. Come look at how incredible this is. Look at the tomatoes. Mushy and sweet. And you want it chunky. You can use your molcajete like I'm doing, but you can also use your blender or your food processor. So it looks like I have everything I need for an outrageous breakfast. Oh, did you hear how crunchy that is? Ooh, this is so perfect. Look at these. You can see the big chunks of jalapeno and tomato. I can do this. I can get a bite of everything into one. It's so delicious. It has so much going on, but it goes so well together. First thing you taste is a salsita, which is spicy and rustic and chunky. And then you have the super hearty pieces of meat. My favorite part is the beginning and the end. Because at the beginning you get the salsita and I love the egg. And then you're going through the meat and the chorizo. But then at the end, you eat that potato hash, which is kind of a sweet base for the rest. A crazy brunch, but an incredibly delicious one. We have the orejitas, and then we have a very simple chocolate ganache. And what we have here is 4 ounces of bittersweet chopped chocolate, and I added a half a cup of warm heavy cream. And then once it dilutes, you mix it up, and you have your chocolate ganache. You have the beautiful orejita. Oh, the crunch. The outside is crisper, more brown, more crunchy. And as you move into the middle, it gets more concentrated. It's very light and bright and airy. So you can have your orejitas like this, but you can also dip them in chocolate ganache. You can have more fun and add some sprinkles, just like this, very lightly so they'll stick. I do love chocolate. This is something that you really want to make over the weekend because it's something that's going to fill you up for an entire day. between the steak and eggs combo over the potato hash and this really delicious treat for the end, we have a winner.